Good afternoon. I'm John Yarbrough from Lifesize. I'm here with two special guests. I have Lifesize founder and CEO Craig Malloy and Lifesize Chief Technology Officer Bobby Beckmann here. How are you both doing today?
Great.
Yeah, great.
Good to hear. So before we get into the topic for today, let me first ask, how are you adjusting to work from home life? Are you drinking more coffee, more tea, lots of walks?
I bought bark collars for my two Labradors to keep things a little quiet. I have my adult daughters moved home out of their apartments, and I have two teenage girls living here as well. So there's lots of work from home and lots of school from home going on at the house, and a little bit too much dog barking.
I'll bet. What about you, Bobby?
Pretty much the same. I'm in what was our storage closet. It's basically a big room that was just holding stuff, and now I've pushed everything to one side, set up a desk, and you can't turn this camera around really in public. And same thing. I get the dogs barking, but I get to hang out with them a lot more. So I guess that's good. But yeah, it's been about the same.
Well, glad to hear you. Exactly. Yeah, we're relatively lucky to have such a great tool to connect with one another and with our customers. Which is a good segue into today's conversation, which is about video conferencing, privacy, and security. And Bobby, I'll start with you. There has been a tremendous amount of attention and focus on data privacy right now across our industry. What do you think is contributing to that?
I think it's like most technologies that get wide adoption, it hits a tipping point where all of a sudden, you start to pay attention to that piece of software you've installed on your computer or in your home. It's happened with every other social media technology. It could be Facebook, obviously, is a classic one, and all of a sudden, when you have tens of millions of new users of video conferencing, ultimately, you don't really think through it. When you have a CSO in your organization, they may be asking certain questions. When you have certain people in the enterprise, it's smaller scale, but when you're releasing it to kids around the world, people around the world just starting to use it, they're not really, they're not thinking through what happens, right? They're just clicking on a link and they're just using it, and they're not. And so eventually someone's going to start wondering what's going on with all of this data that's flying around, and what's in that privacy policy. And I think it's too easy for the mainstream consumer to just click OK, I accept, instead of really wondering what's happening. And I think people are finally starting to realize it's worth wondering, because these are all very personal phone calls that are happening, right? These video calls are as personal as they can get, especially a time like this. This is our face-to-face interaction. So I think now people are wondering what's happening to the bits when they fly over the wire, and who owns them.
Right. And Craig, curious from your perspective, how much impact, regarding this privacy conversation that's taking place, in real time right now, do you think is, just because of coronavirus and this, this sudden work from home that seemingly is impacting literally everyone in the world, is this just a reflection of our current situation, or is this an issue that you think has been happening under the surface and is just now coming to sort of the mainstream because there's more scrutiny on it?
Yeah, these security issues that are being reported didn't happen last week because the usage went up. They've been there since day one. They just were they've just been discovered and brought to light. This is not something that happened because the usage went up 10x. Our usage has gone up 10x as well. I bet Microsoft Teams usage has gone up 10x. Nobody's hammering Microsoft or Lifesize for security breaches or lacks data security or privacy practices.
Right. Well, I mean, you just touched on it. There seems to be one specific provider that's getting the bulk of the attention right now, which is Zoom. And, there's been a widespread, number of media reports that have been broadly covered about, lax privacy policies, lax security practices. You've been in this industry for 25 years. You've started several video conferencing companies. What was your initial reaction when you started seeing these headlines pop up in your newsfeed?
Well, it's horrifying. I think it puts a bad light on on the industry that I've spent virtually my entire professional career after I got out of stopped being a Navy officer. Virtually my entire civilian professional career working in this industry, and it's awful what what's happening here, and not necessary. It's not accidental. It's just that's just who they are.
Bobby, one of the things I was curious about, as CTO, as somebody that literally is thinking about decisions on how we build features and how to balance things like ease of use versus other considerations. Zoom gets a tremendous amount of attention for being easy to use. And, as a video conferencing provider that competes with them, we obviously strive every day to be as easy for our customers to use as possible. Is there such a thing as being too easy? How do you, as a head of a large and growing development or global development team, balance ease of use versus things that are not features, they're requirements like security and privacy considerations?
Well, I think you take it. I don't know about too easy, right? I think you do want to care about the customer, even in this world when you're an enterprise software company, you still have end users, consumers that are basically using your software. So we want the user to be able to know to have a great experience and to make it simple to use. I think the difference is in what's the culture behind how you build the software, right? So there's a lot of places where basically the teams like an order taker, right? They're being told implement this feature. They're given some set of requirements. And they do exactly what they were told to build, and it's one direction, right? So I feel like the way to build the right engineering team is for them to be able to say no, or maybe have you thought about this, or what do we do about this particular scenario? So our engineers are empowered to do that. We say like, yeah, this will make the user's experience better, but these are the problems that we're going to see if we do that. What are the other approaches we can take that will make this a better experience, but still keep them safe? We've done a lot of things for ease of use. So, I think you've used Lifesize for a while. It is easy to use. We run on the browser natively. We have great clients that make it simple to use. But at the same time, we've taken care to make sure that every feature we implement, we've thought through what the implications are.
Yeah. So I'll share my screen briefly here, and for those that are on the live stream today, I assume there's probably some familiarity with what's being reported in the press. But for those that are not, just some of the specific issues that are being reported right now. On March 25th, there's an article about surveillance feature in Zoom that was sort of undercovered previously that allowed employers to track the attention of folks that are on a video conferencing call in a way that wasn't super apparent to the end user. On March 30th, a security researcher detailed a Mac OS exploit with Zoom's installer that circumvented typical Apple user consent pop-ups on the operating system. This was later compounded by a TechCrunch report that highlighted it's in fact possible to join Zoom via the web browser, like Lifesize and many others allow customers to do, but it was masked to the end user, sort of this desktop install software first or centric approach, which was another thing that caught the attention of security researchers. Again, one of the things that's been probably most broadly covered is this notion of Zoom bombing, where webinar presenters and classroom settings and other large group calls have been interrupted by individuals that are showing offensive, sometimes pornographic or racist materials during unprotected calls. There have been, additional complaints and concerns about methods that Zoom uses in their chat protocol that may be, at risk of people stealing Windows passwords and credentials. And, finally, there have been more regarding unintentionally leaking emails and personally identifiable information to strangers that register under some less common email registration domains. So, Craig, I'll come back to you for a second. That's a lot. That's a lot in a short period of time. We're talking about a week and a half. How much of this is fair criticism? Is there anything that you think is unfair with regards to issues that Zoom is facing? Is this, something that has to do with supporting a 10x growth and new customers all at once? Or is this truly something that is unique and needs to be scrutinized and considered at a deeper level by folks that are responsible for selecting these platforms on behalf of their businesses?
Well, I think every one of those is a real issue, and I don't see Zoom, disputing the validity of any of those issues. I in the blog post from their founder Eric today, he basically said, well, we designed this for enterprise product. We had no idea all these, it's going to be used this broadly, and that's why all these issues are coming out. Well, that's just disingenuous BS. I mean, it has all of these same issues are there in an enterprise environment. It's I think, IT directors and people within business weren't, trusted Zoom to develop products in the same way as other enterprise vendors like Microsoft would do, or Google would do, or Oracle would do, or Lifesize would do. And they got, and what they found out was that's not the way that Zoom builds products. And I think his blog post was really, oh, I'm sorry we got caught. Oh, I'm sorry that more people are using it now. We're subjected to more scrutiny. Not that I think that's really what it was about, and it's disgusting, frankly.
Bobby, again, I'm sure your team has been watching this news cycle closely. To your knowledge, do any of these issues impact Lifesize or some of our other contemporaries? Are these industry-wide concerns, or is this more limited? Can you speak to what you and your team have been able to investigate thus far? Yeah,
none of these impact Lifesize, mostly for a couple of key reasons. One, you touched on that attendee tracking feature. We've had facial recognition demonstrations that we've gone out and shown to partners and some limited customers just to see, and pretty much instantly some percentage of people will freak out because you suddenly realize that you're doing something with that data that is questionable on whether or not you should be doing that, identifying them, figuring out what they're doing, and if the user doesn't know, that's even worse. So we haven't actually even rolled anything like that out into the product because we haven't really figured out what's the right way to manage privacy for our customers. When it looks at the other stuff, I mean, the thing that we do is we knew early on when we did this that WebRTC was really going to be a great technology to build video conferencing on, an industry standard that we can really build on and that is supported by the industry. So when you have Google supporting you, Microsoft supporting you, when we build our stuff, it's built with the same sort of software that it's basically uses Chrome as underpinnings. Teams uses it, Slack uses it. We all, a lot of companies use it, and so our stuff is out there and available for inspection, right? So all of our clients are open source. We don't, we don't have to worry about, did the engineers make a mistake? We watch ourselves, but at the same time, we're building on things that we hope that, thousands of engineers are looking at. And if a fix happens there, we'll all get that fix. So really, if you're, if I'm installing software on my laptop, I feel a lot better if I know I have access to the source code. I know most people can't read it, but I know that there are people out there that can. And I think that's the big difference. And I think that's a reason why a lot of the things that impacted Zoom, this is all this month, but a year ago when they were installing web servers on laptops, or they weren't encrypting calls, all of those things were happening, and it wasn't malicious, right? It was just really, there was a product manager somewhere that said, hey, we really needed to launch this way. Engineer says, okay, I'm going to put this in, and there was no sort of other direction of this. Like, okay, well, what happens to what can someone do to this thing? And no one's inspecting it because the Zoom client's not open source. But when you see the other things that are, it's pretty straightforward. Anyone can figure out how we do things. It's not something we're trying to hide. Our goal is to provide the best experience using our entire service as a whole. But if I'm installing something on your computer, you should be able to inspect it and see what it does.
Yeah. Well, staying there for a minute with you, Bobby, generally speaking, what is our approach to customer data security and privacy? I mean, what do you as a CTO do to ensure that we are building capabilities correctly? You touched on, using open source code bases and being able to develop out in the open, which is, I'm sure, a huge component about it. But this sounds like a cultural thing. Can you build engineering culture around data security and privacy overnight, or is this something that takes time to create within an organization?
It takes longer than 90 days. I can tell you that. So it's not something you can just decide to instill in the organization. It's a top-down approach to how you build software. And again, it requires a bi-directional relationship, right? So the engineers have to be able to say no. Someone needs to be able to say no. We shouldn't do that. And you have to be able to listen to those folks that are actually building your software and learning from them. With our data, we're pretty careful. I think one interesting bit about ours is we do our best to not know what you're doing with our service. It's if you're doing a point-to-point call, we don't even see your media. It's fully encrypted. As much as possible. It doesn't even touch Lifesize services, right? Even when we do have to do a mixed call where we have media coming together, we don't. There's no storage of it. There's no way to inspect it. There's actually no way into the system for anyone to go look at a live call that's not supposed to be on it. I can't just poke into some customer's call and take a peek. We don't even give that to our support agents, which sometimes impacts our ability to support some customers, but the opportunity for abuse is significant. And obviously, we've done all the things with GDPR and all the right certifications to make sure that we're being good citizens with that. And if a customer asks us to get rid of their data, anything we have on them, obviously we respond quickly. So I think from top to bottom, I think we've taken a good approach to this, and I think just our track record kind of proves that.
Yeah. So Craig, one of the things that's been touched on as a theme in some of this press coverage and also discussions we're having with our partners and customers right now is the notion of enterprise-grade technologies versus consumer-grade technologies. From your vantage point, is that just marketing, or is there a substantive difference between consumer-grade tech and an enterprise-grade solution, as well as the expectations that folks that use those technologies should have of the provider?
I mean, I don't think there's any delineation on that anyway. And now, if you look at the way that Europe is reading this GDPR regs, security, data privacy is data privacy, and that employees at businesses are people. They're consumers. They're consumers as well. So it's disingenuous to say that if it's used in a consumer application, it has a different set of data privacy and security requirements than it does in a business. There's different concerns. Business has concerns about intellectual property being stolen. And consumers generally are more more concerned about their financial data or their being stolen. But it's the same issues, and products should be built the same way. And again, I think in many cases, businesses, enterprises. Assume that Zoom is building software in the same way that other enterprise application vendors were building it, with the same culture of data privacy and security built in. Some of those certifications are actually self-certifying things, and it turns out that's not the case. That's just the culture they have. And frankly, it's embarrassing for our industry, and it bleeds over to everybody else who has spent years and years and years and hundreds of millions and billions of dollars building this new way to communicate over video communication.
Got it. So switching gears slightly, we have a couple questions from the audience that's watching live with us today that I wanted to switch to quickly. The first comes from Eric, who's watching the live stream and is a math professor that uses Zoom currently. And his question is, he says he has had a number of interruptions in class from non-students joining the video call and making inappropriate comments. And he's curious to know, Bobby, I'll turn to you for this. Is there anything that he could do to stop this, either on Lifesize or other solutions?
I mean, I think it's all about how you're distributing the. I mean, this is with anything. This could be any sort of group calling scenario. This is audio conferences had this problem forever. I mean, really, you need to separate how you're letting people in. There's giving people a link is one thing, and then giving people an access code, and it should be different. If you're just pasting the entire thing and sending it to everybody and not protecting it, and it's public, well then you're going to have a problem. I mean, I think one thing you get when you when you use Zoom, unfortunately, if you're on the free plan, you only get one room with it's the same identifier no matter what. You can't change that identifier. So that means that you really only have that passcode, and if that gets out there, you kind of either have to recreate a new account or do something. With something like Lifesize, we have one-time meetings, right? So you create a meeting, it creates a single one-time URL, and then it goes away as soon as you use it, and it never comes back. And those are things that we get with our free account. So I think the thing to do is you have to treat all of these things like your phone number. And if you're going to give your phone number out to the whole world, then people may call it. So you have to treat it the same way, and you have to find a different way to secure it. So PIN codes, rotating meeting IDs, those are the simple approaches, and those are generally easy to do. I mean, they can certainly do them in Lifesize, no problem.
Yeah. Another question that was submitted, the person that's watching was curious what the worst case scenario is for some of these Zoom issues that are being reported in the media. I think what they're asking here is how serious are these issues, and is this something that organizations using Zoom need to take action on immediately, or is this something that is a possibility, but perhaps you're not at risk if you don't take action?
Well, I mean, so the worst case scenario is the 0-day exploit, right? The thing that no one knows. A year ago, I could sit in a coffee shop and listen to every and watch every Zoom meeting happening in the room, right? A year ago. We're not talking about like 5 years ago. And a year later, this is still happening, right? So culturally, nothing has changed, obviously. And so I think the issue there is you just don't know what's coming up. Just these are the things that we know about. But generally, if you've seen some of them, there's probably more behind them. It's unlikely that magically these are everything that's finished. So that's what I worry about. It's the 0-day stuff that no one publishes.
Another question that just got submitted, and Craig, I'll come to you for this one. Our viewer is asking if Lifesize plans to take the same approach as Zoom, who is currently giving away 30 to 45-day free trials. Can you speak to that?
We have actually, because at the beginning of this COVID-19 pandemic, and knowing that, a lot of our customers and folks who weren't our customers were going to be now working from home. We immediately launched 2 initiatives. One for our paying customers, the ability to oversubscribe your users in an unlimited way for 6 months, because lots of our customers maybe didn't have an account for everybody who now was going to be working at home. So we just allowed our existing paying customers to completely oversubscribe their accounts and give that and provide that for free for the next 6 months. And then for people who are not our customers, and you can find this on our website, we have a free plan with a completely free plan with kind of unlimited usage, unlimited time meetings, one-time meetings, which creates a new meeting URL for every meeting, an unlimited usage plan for people to use that. So schools in Austin have been using that. Churches in Austin have been using that. My daughter's volleyball team has been using that to keep their team dynamic together. In the last 3 weeks, we've had nearly 200,000 signups on our free plan. And I want to say that every bit of data privacy and data security and encryption culture and code that goes into the plans we sell to our largest enterprise is contained, in our free plan as well. And spelled out in the data, reaffirmation of our data privacy and security implementation that we just issued on our press release this morning. So we're proud to, as an organization, to be able to provide that free capability to people in need around the world. Both for our paying customers and then anybody else who wants to use it.
A couple of other questions that are coming in. One question is about our underlying business model and specifically differences between how Lifesize as a business makes money versus other competitors. I believe this is in reference to concerns around data being monetized or sold to third parties. Craig, could you speak to our data policies regarding sharing with third-party affiliates or others that are not part of Lifesize?
Yeah, we would never ever sell data to a third party or allow a third party to scrape it, like we did with Zoom and Facebook. And in fact, I think there's a class action lawsuit that was just launched against Zoom. Someone alleging that they shared their data with Facebook. We would never do that. Have never done that. It's called out in our privacy and security policy. Our business model is based on two things: paid users for that you would use on your mobile or your desktop, and then our conference room systems, which have equal hardware-based encryption contained in those devices. So our business model is completely around customers paying for the products and services that we deliver.
A few more, and thank you guys for the time this afternoon to have this conversation, which is obviously very timely and a lot of folks that are interested in this information. Question is, now that many of us are on video for a while, seemingly we'll be working from home for many more weeks, possibly even months. What other considerations should we all have regarding our choice of a video conferencing platform right now? Bobby, I'll start with you, and then Craig, maybe I'll turn to you as well.
I think if it's your first time joining, you just want to be able to get on there quick, right? You want to be able to easily create an account, add users, and feel that they're going to be able to have no problem doing it, right? So having a browser-based solution is pretty awesome. So if you are just going to use Chrome, then you won't have to worry about downloading software. It works great on mobile. And I think for us, that's it. And you probably need a good webcam and a decent set of headphones that are noise canceling. Your probably quarantine buddies are. But that's kind of that's the main thing. I think it's just the other features are interesting that we offer, that all the providers offer, but really it's how quickly can I get this meeting going? How can I make it feel like I'm not losing any sort of momentum working from home?
I'll come at it from a little bit different perspective. I think, it's about the brand, and at the essence of every brand is really integrity. And it could be an integrity of whether it's what are the great brands now in the market, Apple or Peloton or Amazon. It's about the integrity, the expectation of what you're going to get, and with Lifesize, it's around data privacy and security, and customer support, customer obsession, scalability, quality. I mean, our traffic and on our service has gone up 10x as well, and we're getting and we've just had 150,000 free accounts created in the last 3 weeks. Yet, we're not besieged with with data privacy and security accusations. So I think you want to, with any purchase that you make, you want to think about the company that's standing behind it. Again, this has been my life's work since 1994 around in video communication, and at Lifesize since 2003. This is who we are. This is what we do. I'm embarrassed at what's happening to our industry, and one of the reasons we're having this session today is to set the record straight and state our position and how we do business here at conduct ourselves at Lifesize.
Another couple questions that came in that are relevant to one another. Question is, if I am a Zoom user, but I am not the decision maker for my organization regarding which video conferencing solution we use, what can I do about it? And even more to the point, what else is out there that's better? I think I can guess how you'll answer the second half, but Bobby, I'll start with you.
Obviously, I think Lifesize is a pretty good choice. It's there's nothing to stop, and this is not any different than Slack and many other companies. I mean, you can go create a Lifesize account for yourself and try it, right? And I think that is the simplest approach. You can create your own Lifesize account. You can have a meeting that can have all your folks you work with, have them join, and if you need it, it's there. And give it a try. And if you like it, just keep using it and let other folks know how it works for you. That's really how these things work, and I think that's probably the best thing we can do. But there's nothing to stop you from giving this a whirl.
Another question, Bobby or Craig, either of you can jump in here. This viewer is someone that uses Microsoft Teams and was curious if Lifesize can work in conjunction with Teams, or is it an either-or choice?
I'll let Bobby answer that, since he was the earning champion and architect of our Teams integration.
Yeah, Teams is everywhere, and we think it's great. And actually, we use it at Lifesize. We built a really great integration where you can just use it. You use Teams for what you need to use Teams for, but as soon as you want to have a meeting like this, or bring some conference rooms in and have a more a bigger video call, then you do it this way. And I think this is you just go to your Teams bot, hit /Lifesize, bam, you have a meeting. It's easy to use, and it actually, because of the browser-based kind of stuff, you're not even installing more software. You just literally load up your Teams bot with the Lifesize or the Lifesize bot in Teams, and off you go.
Well, thank you guys for the time. I have one final question. I'll come to you, Craig, for this one. As we begin to wrap up, could you just speak to the advice that you are giving to customers or partners or your network regarding what to do right now as they're balancing keeping their teams connected and trying to continue working as productively as possible with all of the challenges and now some of these new concerns being raised regarding video conferencing solutions? What parting thoughts would you give our audience and those that are reaching out to you as someone that's been in the industry for a long time?
That's a great question. And first, I'd like to apologize for the person with the weed trimmer outside my window. Apparently in Austin, Texas, that lawn service is still considered, lawn mowing is still considered an essential service. I can't get out of my house to take a walk, but the guys with the lawnmowers can show up. So if you hear the weed trimmer going in the background, that's what's going on there. So I apologize. That's one of the truisms of video call. As soon as you do a video call, the person with the weed blower, the weed trimmer, is going to show up right outside the window. But this has actually been a really interesting experiment for me as well. I mean, although I've been running video communication companies for 25 years, I'm primarily a work in the office person. We live just a few miles from the office, and we go to the office. Most of us at Lifesize go to the office every day, and we built these great tools for people who do work from home or on the road, or in our other offices around the world. So this has been a real interesting challenge for me as well. I've been primarily used to using one of our room systems, and then if if I'm traveling around the road, or if I need to take a call at home, I'll use our desktop or our mobile app. But now you can see I'm actually in my upstairs bedroom because there's so many people in the house. It's the quietest place. And I think you saw my wife duck in and grab something a few minutes ago. So this has been it's been a really interesting experience about being slammed into the work from home life and having to use our product day in and day out, to conduct our business, to conduct our global business. And as you might know, we just we're in the process of merging with a cloud contact center company as well to expand our product portfolio. But I've been thrilled at how the quality and the scalability and the usefulness of these tools, and not just Lifesize. Obviously, I think we're the best by far, but video communication and remote working from generally, it can be done. It can be done very effectively, and I would but I think one thing you need to do, and I was talking to our HR VP about this yesterday, and she put out a note to all our managers, is that when you do work from home and you're managing a team, you need to have your one-on-ones with your team every single week, because you don't see them walking down the hall or out of the parking garage, or just have the sidebar conversations. You need to make a point to have your one-on-one meetings with your folks every single week. Just put it on the calendar. And then secondly, a group staff meeting with your team every single week or multiple times a week, or maybe a daily stand-up, to get that, to keep that culture, to keep that cohesiveness going. And so I've been trying to do that, do that a lot more. Even with my experience and long years in this, I'm learning some new things about how to use video communication well.
I think we're all learning together right now. Well, that's it for today. Bobby, Craig, thank you both for the time, and thanks to everyone who joined the live stream for their time and for the great questions. A recording of today's live stream will be available shortly, so make sure that you check back to Lifesize social media channels for that. And again, we appreciate it. Until next time, thank you both.
Thank you all.
Thanks.